Welcome back to Think Outside the Board, everyone. This is the Kickstarter Weekly. This week's episode is going to cover games that are crowdfunding between February 14th and February 20th. Now, I've got 4 different games that are crowdfunding that I'd like to bring your attention to today. But before we do that, first I'm going to talk to you about 3 games that I've played since the last video. First on the list is Descent: Legends of the Dark. This is the latest game in the Descent series. It's not actually called Descent 3. They may actually put out a Descent 3 in the future. If they do that, then this game will kind of be its own offshoot. Now, this is the big cube game that came out within the last year. It is very heavily reliant on app use. You cannot play the game without an app, and a lot of the game is done in the app. To the point where my fiance Kristen doesn't really enjoy this game that much. We're going to play it once or twice more with her, and then I think she's going to bow out, and I'm going to continue the campaign without her because she just doesn't like that combination of board game and app, to the point that it feels like you're playing an app more than you're actually playing a board game. And I think that's an honest criticism of this. It is very much kind of half an app, half an on-the-table board game. So if you don't like that combination of things, if you want your board games to be purely on the table, no technology involved, then you're probably not going to like this iteration of Descent. I will say that I like the way the characters level up together, and I like the way the app controls everything. So whenever you go to do a new scenario, you can just go to the menu screen, you're kind of picking the characters that you're going to take with you, and then based on things you've won in the past, items you've crafted, from weapons to armor to consumables and trinkets, you will have access to anything that you've procured in the past. And when you go to that character selection screen, you'll be able to include any of the weapons, cards, things like that character has unlocked. And so the app will tell you what's available. Once you pick what you're going to use for that scenario, you'll just go into the game and you'll take those things, and that's what you'll play with. So there's never any need in this game for the players to bookkeep beyond what they're doing in the app. And that's a really nice thing. Now, because so much of this game is linked to the app, I think that when you're playing, if you have all of the players involved with putting the components out on the table and building the map as it expands throughout your scenario, I think those players will be more involved in the game. In fact, I think the reason that my fiance is not enjoying the game as much is because when we play, we've been playing a 3-player game, and I've been handling the miniatures, and my friend Ryan has been handling all of the cardboard components, which means Kristen's kind of just sitting there watching everything get built and unfold, and all she has to do is choose what to do with her character. And oftentimes, those decisions are few, because if you're in a combat, you kind of know exactly what you're going to do. I mean, there are decisions to be made in combat, like, am I going to use this ability or this one? But depending on your character, those decisions may be limited. You may know, I'm just going to walk over there and I'm going to attack him twice and that's my turn. So it feels to me that Kristen is just not engaged with our campaign because she's not doing as much with the game physically. So she and I are actually going to start our own campaign, a new campaign, and we're going to play two-handed. So we'll each control 2 characters. And I think that's going to involve both of us more in the game. And we're going to play one game that way and see if she likes it. If she likes it, we may continue on, but I think she's going to bow out of the other campaign. And I think Ryan and I are just going to continue on that campaign alone. And we'll probably play that through to the end. And that way I can keep talking to you about the campaign and the scenarios, and then give a solid review of the game once we're done, once we've completed the campaign once. I will say that I'm really enjoying it, and right now I'd rate the game at about an 8.5, but that will change as the campaign continues and as I see what the various scenarios offer us in terms of gameplay, upgradability, and then just the overall story. But right now I'm really enjoying it, and the kind of app board game cross integration isn't a problem for me. And I'm just enjoying the story and the miniatures skirmish combat element of the game. So we are now 3 scenarios in. The third scenario, when we played it this last weekend, it was the first time that we lost. And when you lose a scenario in Descent, evidently, you don't have to replay that scenario. It's interesting. Some games you do. Sometimes you have to go back and keep playing it until you win or until you lose a certain amount of times, and then the game will kind of push you past it. In this game, in our scenario, we still did a lot of things. We still got a lot of treasure and loot and upgrades. We just didn't manage to beat that scenario by one turn. My character was killed, and if he had not been killed in that turn, we would have won on the very next turn. So it was a very tight game. I don't think it bothered any of us that we lost too much, but I think we did learn a couple things about the nature of that scenario, and if we were to replay it, I think we would easily beat it. There's a very specific and certain way to beat one of the opponents in that scenario that wasn't that obvious when we played it for the first time. So we are now 3 scenarios in of a 16 scenario campaign. I think Ryan and I are committed to completing it, but we'll be playing it in the future without Kristen. I also played Hansa Teutonica Big Box, and this is a game that I acquired a little while back. I've heard great things about it. I've really been wanting to play it. However, it does not play at all at 2 players. There was a 2-player variant on the previous version, but people just talk a lot of smack about it. They say it's not worth playing, it's not any good. So I knew that we had to have at least 3 people to play this. And I've also heard that it's better at 4 and 5 players. In fact, I have one friend who will only play it at 4 and 5 players. However, we did a 3-player game. We used the base map. I wanted to actually use another map, the Britannia map, because I hear the 3-player game is better on that map. However, that map also has some exceptions and some different kinds of rules. And since all 3 of us were playing it for the first time, at the end of the day, I decided to just play the 3-player game on the original map. Now, I will say, if you know anything about this game, there is a lot of contentiousness around a certain area of the board. It's the area where players can upgrade the number of actions that they can take. So they start the game being able to take 2 actions per turn. If they fully upgrade this part of their player board, they can take up to 5 actions in one turn. And there's an area of the board where you can upgrade that ability, and players really fight hard over that. In fact, a lot of players think that that area of the board is the key to winning. So if you are in a game with players who are really vying over that area, it is advantageous to get more actions, and probably even required to get 3, maybe 4 actions. But you don't have to fight over that area so hard. And if you're in a game where players are fighting over that area, it's better for you to go elsewhere, do other things, score points around the board in different places. And I have heard of players where that's going on. The one player who kind of goes and gets their points elsewhere, that's often the player that wins, just because people are too focused on this area of the board where you upgrade your action. But to describe what this game is, it is a little bit more of a classic feel of the game. I think it was originally published back around 2010. Now they've done a big box version, but component-wise and look-wise, it feels like a 10 to 20-year-old game. It is very simple to teach. It's not that complicated to play, but I feel that there are very, very good strategic decisions to make throughout. So it feels like a game like Power Grid or Concordia, one of those games that all gamers can play, and there's just good choices to be made. And the fact that it is kind of easy and simple to teach, I think it's a great game to bring to like a meetup, and you can quickly teach it to a lot of people and then all just get going on this game. Now, the game itself is about traders in Germany during the Hanseatic era, hence the name Hansa Teutonica. So in Germany, during this period of history, there was this Hanseatic League of Traders. It was kind of unofficial, so you never knew really who was in it or who wasn't. But it was a traders' league. And so this game is about trading in Germany during that historical time period when this league was very present. And so the mechanics of this game have players placing cubes out on the board. There are a lot of cities, and there are trading routes between cities. So anytime you complete a trading route with all of your cubes, so you've placed them in all of the little spaces between 2 cities, you can either build a trading post in one of those neighboring cities. If you have the right player marker, sometimes that's a cube, sometimes that's a disc. And if you have the right color unlocked in your privilege box on your player board, that will allow you to build in that color trading post square. There are several different areas on your player board, and they're all upgradable. They will allow you to do things like take a certain number of actions during your turn, have the ability to build trading posts in higher level spaces, get a higher number of cubes from the general supply into your personal supply when you need to refill your traders and merchants, as well as the number of cubes that you can redistribute out on the board during one of your turns, and the number of the multiplier that at the end of the game you will score times your longest number of connected cities. So they're simple mechanics. Generally, you're putting cubes out, you're building trading posts. There is some take that in the game. There's another ability where players can push a cube out of an area, and players will want to make heavy use of that mechanic. So if someone is placing out cubes in an area of the road, you'll want to put one of your cubes in that road, and they'll have to push you out. When they push you out, you will get that cube and another cube back, and then you will be able to place those cubes on a neighboring section of road. So constantly doing that, getting in other players' ways, will make them spend more cubes to move you out of that area, and then will give you bonus cubes to immediately play. That's kind of the name of the game in Hansa Teutonica, is doing this blocking move and then strategically replacing when you're booted out. So component-wise, it's not the most extravagant assortment of components. It's not a shiny new game like you'd see on Kickstarter with all of these cutting-edge components and things that, you know, grab your attention and make you want to play it, whether it's a good game or not. This is a game that has withstood the test of time. It's got a simple component set, but it's just a very, very good, solid game, and very strategic and tactical. So I would recommend this to groups that like to play the same game over and over and really dive deep into strategy. If you get the big box, there are 3 different maps, and I think all of those maps have one side for 3 players and another side for 4 to 5 players. But in general, even though we played it at 3 and we did enjoy it, or I did enjoy it at 3, and I would play it again at 3, it is widely considered to be a better game for 4 to 5 players. So if you're constantly playing in that player count, then this is a good investment. But it does feel a little bit older to me, and so I think if I were to rate it, which I'm going to do right now, I almost would rate it in the 7s, but I think the gameplay is so good, it's going to bump it to around an 8 for me. And then finally, I played Yedo Deluxe Master Set. Now, this game is often known as Lords of Waterdeep on steroids, or Lords of Waterdeep with its big boy pants on, but essentially you are going around the board into worker placement spaces, and you are getting various resources that you will then need to fulfill contracts. What I really liked about, I believe it's actually pronounced correctly as Edo. So Edo Deluxe Master Set. I think the Y is silent, although it is commonly pronounced Yedo by board gamers. I think they're all mispronouncing it, though. I believe the correct pronunciation is actually Edo. But what I really liked about Edo is how thematic that it feels. So the mission cards all have titles, they have some text, and the various things that you need to do to fulfill those missions, which usually equates to having various resources and or being on certain parts of the board. It feels very, very, very thematic to me, and I like that. It gives it a narrative, almost role-playing feel to it. Even though you're doing the same kind of thing mechanically you would be doing in Lords of Waterdeep. So for example, one mission you might be trying to complete is to steal a weapon from a merchant. So to do that, you need to have one of your workers in the merchant area, right? And you need to have a certain other weapon that you're going to need to make that theft happen. There may be other things that you need. And then the rewards that you'll get in this case, I think, are money, and you actually get a new weapon, which is, you know, the weapon that you've just stolen. So I like it thematically. I really like what the game does. It's not a high-scoring game. The friend that I was playing with really seemed to not like the game because he wasn't just racking up a lot of points. But this isn't a game about scoring points. The points are low. The point tracker only goes to 50, and I heard Paul Grogan say when I was watching him do a game of it that he's never seen anyone go beyond 50. High 40s, but no one's ever lapped 50. So it's not a high-scoring game. It's just about this resource management and completing missions and then using those rewards from the missions to do other things on the board. but scoring any kind of points in this game takes a lot of work. So you're going to be doing a lot of things to eke out those smaller number of points, and that's okay. I'm totally fine with that. Also in the game, though, are several different expansions, modular expansions. We played the base game. I'm very much looking forward to playing the modular expansions because they all look interesting. They add in different mechanics or change the mechanics a little bit, and they add a lot more variability to the gameplay. I also noticed that there is now a cooperative mode in this game. You can play it solo, you can play it with somebody, but you're working together to execute certain goals. And I believe it's actually designed by David Turksey, which is a great sign. I love David Turksey's designs, and in general, I love his solo modes. So I'm really excited to dive deeper into Yedo Deluxe Master Set and play with some of these modular expansions and play with the cooperative or solo mode. So for now, I'm actually giving Yedo Deluxe Master Set an 8.5. I think that score will change after I play the cooperative mode and the modular expansions, but I don't really know which way it's going to move yet. I think I'll either find that the variability is not quite enough for me, in which case that score may move down to an 8 or a 7.5, or I'll really enjoy what the game has to offer, and I might even bump that score up to like a 9.0. We'll see, but for now, 8.5 for me for Yedo Deluxe Master Set. So that completes this section of the video. Let's move forward to the currently running Kickstarters that I'd like to share with you that are going to complete their funding this week. The first game that I'd like to talk to you about is Thunder Road Vendetta. Now, this game had a minimum required funding goal of $300,000. They're currently sitting at $703,000, which is about 2.5 times that minimum required funding goal. Thunder Road Vendetta is going to complete its funding on Monday, February 14th. The game plays 2 to 4 players in about 45 to 75 minutes. Complexity level is light, and we're going to set the risk on this campaign at medium-low. So Restoration Games is largely responsible for the Unmatched series on one side, and then they've been updating a lot of older games like from the 80s and making them a little more gamery and just putting out new versions. And they've done that with Dark Tower. They did Return to Dark Tower. That's one of the games they did. They also worked on the new version of Fireball Island, and they have a new version of Key to the Kingdom coming out this year. Thunder Road was originally published in 1986. It's a racing game. It's got car combat and dice rolling. So there's 6 different designers who've worked on this new version of the game. Dave Chalker has previously worked on Get Bit, Heat, and Thief's Market. Noah Cohen has previously worked on Betrayal Legacy, Betrayal at Mystery Mansion, and Unmatched Little Red Riding Hood vs. Beowulf. Rob Davio has previously worked on Cthulhu Death May Die and Pandemic Legacy Seasons 0 through 2. So all 3 of those seasons of Pandemic Legacy games. Justin D. Jacobson has worked on Downforce, Unmatched Battle of Legends Volume 1, Unmatched Cobble and Fog, Unmatched Robin Hood vs. Bigfoot, and Unmatched Jurassic Park InGen vs. Raptors. Brett Myers has worked on Dual Powers, Revolution 1917, Nanak, and Rome City of Marble, and Brian Neff has previously worked on Betrayal Legacy and Betrayal at Mystery Mansion. The 2 artists credited for this version are Marie Bergeron and Garrett Kaida, and Garrett Kaida has previously worked on Football Highlights 2052, Return to Dark Tower, and Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. And finally, Thunder Road Vendetta is being published by Restoration Games, who have previously published Downforce, Unmatched Battle of Legends Volume 1, Unmatched Cobble and Fog, Unmatched Robin Hood vs. Bigfoot, and Unmatched Jurassic Park InGen vs. Raptors. There are only 2 pledge levels in this campaign. However, there is a way to get things as add-ons. But first, the 2 pledge levels. For $50, the pledge level called Hit the Gas, you will get the base game, paint wash on the minis, stretch goals, and the extra ammo mini expansion pack. If you pledge at the $145 level, called Maximum Chrome, you're going to get 5 more things added onto the pledge. A Game Trays plastic insert, an exclusive crew leader called Embarco, and then 3 expansions, Big Rig in the Final 5, Chop Shop, and Carnage at Devil's Run. Now, as far as add-ons go, for $20, you can add on a sleeve pack that will give you enough sleeves for all the cards in the base game and that extra ammo mini expansion pack. And the sleeves have, a normal clear front with a black matte back. So the back of the sleeves are not see-through. Also for $20, you can order a set of art prints, which are 8x10s, and then you can order any of the 3 expansions as an add-on. One of them is $25, that's the Chop Shop expansion, and that's going to get you 8 more leaders, 8 more crew leaders, which is going to give you more variability in terms of, the faction that you're playing with. You'll essentially have different variable player powers depending on which crew leader that you use. And you'll also get 23 upgrade cards, different upgrades for the cars in the game. And then the other 2 expansions are $40 each. Now, Big Rig in the Final 5 is going to give you 2 more faction types. And so that will also give you a 5th player ability in the game. And you'll have either of those other new factions to use as the 5th player. And then Carnage at Devil's Run, that's more of a map pack expansion. So that's going to give you 8 more maps, which will really improve the variability of what you can do on the game in terms of your tracks and your maps, as well as a new mechanic on the maps, fire. Now, whatever you pledge in the continental US, shipping is estimated at $22, and Restoration Games is aiming to deliver Thunder Road Vendetta in November 2022. Mine Management Secret Missions had a minimum required funding goal of $16,000. They're currently sitting at $390,000, which is about 25 times that minimum required funding goal. This campaign will complete its funding on Friday, February 18th. The game plays 1 to 5 players in about 45 to 75 minutes. Complexity on Mine Management is medium light, and we're going to set the risk of this campaign at medium high. Now, the reason that it's medium high is because this is a new publisher. They've only run 1 Kickstarter before for the original Mine Management, but keep in mind that this is a campaign that is run by 2 industry veterans. So even though this is only their 2nd time running a Kickstarter through this new company that they've created for Mine Management, it's called Off the Page Games, they have been around the industry before, so they do know what they're doing. And I think if they complete 1 or 2 more Kickstarter campaigns, that risk level will probably get reduced to medium low. But for right now, I'm keeping them at medium high because they've only completed 1 crowdfunding campaign through this new entity. Now, Mine Management is a deduction and hidden movement game, but what makes it a little bit unique, normally if you're playing deduction and hidden movement games, everybody is working together. It's mostly co-op, trying to find someone. It could be Jack the Ripper, it could be Dracula. If you've played those games like Whitehall Mystery or Fury of Dracula, everyone's working together trying to find the bad guy. This kind of flips that around. So you've got a GM, DM type character who is trying to find everybody else. So in this game, the players all have these psychic agents. They're trying to hide them from Mine Management, which is a one player is controlling this, trying to look for all the other players' agents. And that makes it a 1 versus many, with the 1 trying to do the deduction and the many doing hidden movement and trying to play keep away. So it was designed by Jay Cormier, who's worked on Acrotiri, Belfort, In the Hall of the Mountain King, Junk Art, and the original Mine Management, as well as Senfung Lim, who's worked on Acrotiri, Belfort, Junk Art, Kingdom Rush, A Rift in Time, and the original Mine Management. The art on this game is by Matt Kint, who previously worked on the original Mine Management, and it's being published by Off the Page Games, who previously published the original Mine Management. Now, this campaign is a little bit different than a lot of campaigns. They're not really offering anything new. Mostly this is a way for people who did not back the game the first time around to get a second go at it, or for people who ended up getting the retail version to be able to get the Kickstarter exclusives and upgrade their version of the game. But they're doing this within the guise of these secret missions. So if you have the original game and if you're playing it, while you're playing that game, there are 9 codes in the game. and you'll be able to find them in various items of the game. What this is doing is it's taking those codes and it's putting each of those 9 codes on its own card. And so it's kind of just simplifying it. Once you've found those codes in the game, you can pull the associated card out of its envelope, and then you'll actually have a physical piece of evidence with that code on it. So later on, when you're trying to work out the puzzle that uses the codes, you don't need to try to go back and find them. You're going to have them in front of you. So it just kind of simplifies that. It gives you an unlockable with the code on it so that you can have it easily in hand, but it's not really adding anything new into the game. It's just a way for them to run a new campaign and give people a second go at it. Now, if you order the deluxe version of the game through this campaign, the full version of the game, you will automatically get those envelopes. So you do not need to add them on separately. So let's talk about the 4 different pledge levels here. For $7, you can pledge Mind Management Secret Missions that will get you those cards only. And that's something that you might want to do if you have the previous version of the game. Even if you have the deluxe version of the game, you're not going to have those cards. You may not need them. You may not feel that you need them because they're already there. They're in the artwork of the game. Those codes are already present in your game. But if you want to have those little cards that have it on it, it's very clean. It's an easy way to remember it once you've discovered it. You can just back for that. For $12, you can pledge the Wood Upgrade Kit. And this is something that you might want to do if you bought this at retail and you have the retail version of the game, but you now realize you like it, you're going to play it a lot, and you want the wooden upgrades. You can pledge that. For $15, you can pledge the Mind Management Playing Cards. And that's just going to give you some playing cards that have the mind management art on them. Finally, for $88, you can pledge the deluxe edition of the game that's going to come with some Kickstarter exclusives. One of those is a game trays insert to store things in. Also, when you're playing this game, it's kind of campaigny, and there's going to be different decks of cards that you use throughout the game as you kind of move forward and unlock other scenarios. And so there's also a game trays wallet, sort of a wallet system that you'll be able to keep these different decks of cards in and have them separated out and just easily available for you in their own places. You'll also be getting player screens that have pockets in them. I believe that if you get player screens at retail, there's no pockets. And then finally, you will also get the wooden upgrades that would not be in the retail version. And of course, as I said at the top, you'll also get those the secret mission cards with the envelopes. And if you're missing any of those items and you just want to add them on, again, remember, you won't need to add on the mission cards. They're going to come automatically if you order that deluxe version of the game. But if you want certain other things, you can add them on, and the add-on prices are the same as the pledge prices, with the one exception being those mission cards. For some reason, if you add them on instead of pledging them, the price is showing as $6 instead of $7. However, I think that's just a variance in the kind of change that's associated with it. So it's probably the same price at the end of the day. It just varies by a few cents, I think. So they just rounded to a different number, but it's a $1 difference. It's not a huge deal. So depending on what pledge you pledge at, continental US shipping will range between $5 and $20. So $5 if you're just getting the secret mission cards, $20 if you're getting a new deluxe version of the game. And finally, Off the Page Games is planning on delivering Mind Management Secret Missions in August of 2022. Old London Bridge has a minimum required funding goal of $5,000, very low. They're currently sitting at $36,000, which is about 7 times that minimum required funding goal. This campaign is going to complete its funding on Sunday, February 20th. Old London Bridge plays 2 to 4 players in about 45 minutes. Complexity level of the game is medium light, and we're going to set the risk on this campaign at low. Now, thematically, this game is about architects who are building different areas of the old London Bridge when it was first being constructed. And it's a very light game. It's a very simple game. Players are going to be using mechanics like action selection, hand management, and there's a rondelle in the game. It was designed by Gabriele Bubola, who previously worked on Hats, Merchants of Dunhuang, and Skyliners, and Leo Colvini, who previously worked on Carolus Magnus, Cartagena, and Clans. The game was illustrated by Marcus Ert, who previously worked on Copenhagen, Pioneers, and Treasure Hunter, as well as Patricia Limburger, who previously worked on 12 Thieves, Alhambra, and Skylands. And finally, it's being published by Queen Games, who are probably best known for Amerigo, Chicago Express, Fresco, Lancaster, and Shogun. So there are several different pledge levels on this campaign, but there's only one that is for the game Old London Bridge. That is a $49 pledge. It's called Old London Bridge, and that will get you the new version of the game. However, if you'd like to combine that and get some other games, there's a few other pledge levels. For $109, you can pledge Old London Bridge plus Kokopelli, and that will get you the Kokopelli base game, the Kokopelli expansion, and the Kokopelli acrylic tokens. Those were things that were all part of the Kickstarter for Kokopelli when that ran. For $119, you can pledge Old London Bridge plus Luxor, and that will get you Old London Bridge plus Luxor the Mummy expansion. For $149, you can pledge the early bird version of the Old London Bridge Big Bundle, and that's going to get you both the Kokopelli stuff and the Luxor stuff along with the Old London Bridge base game. Now, as I'm recording this, there were 100 copies of that bundle at that price, and there were still 76 copies left. So there's plenty of opportunity to get the cheaper price for that bundle. If that bundle runs out at that price, though, they're also offering it at a $179 pledge level, so that's $30 more, and that is the Old London Bridge Big Bundle. And it's going to get you the same things, just $30 more, if you missed that 100 units at the early bird price. Now, depending on what pledge you're pledging at, the continental US shipping is a range between $20 and $50. So if you just ordered Old London Bridge, it's $20. If you ordered either of the big bundles, it's estimated at $50. And finally, Queen Games is planning on delivering Old London Bridge in June of 2022, so fairly quickly. This game, I believe, has already been produced, and of course, the other things that they're offering are previously produced games as well. So it seems like they're going to do a quick turnaround here. It's possible that the game is actually already shipped and sitting in warehouses, if that's their target date, because June is very soon. The last game on our list is from a smaller publisher. It's called Ostia. They had a minimum required funding goal of $16,000. They're currently sitting at $149,000, which is just under 10 times that minimum required funding goal. Ostia is also going to complete its funding on Sunday, February 20th. This is a game for 1 to 4 players. It plays in about 80 to 150 minutes. Complexity level on the game is medium light, and we're going to set the risk of this campaign at high, mainly because this is a new publisher. Now, there's a previous game designed by Stefan Risthaus, also called Ostia. This game is no relation to that. This is a new game. Just happens to have the same name. And this game is partly inspired by the game Trajan. Players are going to be leading fleets to explore the ocean and then developing and building up the port. And the main mechanic that they're going to be using in doing that is a Mancala mechanic. Now, this game is designed by Tatsuka Chuo, who previously designed Aqua Garden and the Arctic. The art of Ostia has been provided by Rocinante Urabi, who has previously worked on Amalfi, Aqua Garden, and the Arctic. And the publisher, Yuchi Bakoya, has previously put out Amalfi, Aqua Garden, and Tank Chess. Now, there are 3 different pledge levels associated with this campaign. For $63, you can pledge Ostia Standard. For $76, you can pledge the Ostia Expansion Pledge. That will get you the base game as well as the Merchant Expansion. And then for $98, you can pledge the Ostia Complete Pledge level. That will get you the base game, the Merchant Expansion, and the Upgrade Pack. You can also add on those items. I'm not sure why you'd want to add on the Merchant Expansion because that's easy to get, right? You just pledge the middle level. But for instance, if you wanted the Upgrade Pack and not the Merchant Expansion, then I think the best way to do that is to pledge the first level for the standard game and then add on the Upgrade Pack, because there is no pledge level that includes the Upgrade Pack but not the Merchant Expansion. Anyway, if you were to add on the Merchant Expansion, it's $13 as an add-on, and that expansion is going to include more tiles, more tokens, more milestone cards, and an extra destination tile. So all of those items will add more variability into your game and give you more options and more choices for certain components in the game. The upgrade pack is $22 as an add-on, and what that does is it takes all of the cardboard components in the game, the tiles, and it upgrades them to wood. Now there are other things that you can add on. You can add on Aqua Garden, and it has several expansions, I think an upgrade pack, and there are a few other games. But I'm not going to list all of those out because they're not really related to Ostia. They're just more games from the publisher that you can add on. So if you want to do that, go check out the campaign, see what's available. Maybe there's something that you'd like in addition to Ostia, but I'm not going to list all of them out. I will tell you though that the shipping for this campaign is $19 for the continental US, and the publisher is planning on delivering this game in September of 2022. So that wraps this section, but I would quickly like to talk to you about the games that I personally pledged from last week. So in last week's video, I covered Colab, Granja Deluxe Master Set, Total War Rome, the board game, and Skate Summer. Now, I ended up backing Colab, which is not something that I originally thought I would back, but it has very shiny components, and I liked the way that you kind of activated the mad scientist to get powers. I like the way the tiles come out and kind of beef up the board and give you more options in what you're doing. And overall, it was kind of a cheaper game, and I thought it was a game that my fiance Kristen might really like. So that was a little bit of going out on a limb for me. I backed that one. When it comes, we'll see if we like it. If not, I'll just sell it off. Granja Deluxe Master Set is a game I had been planning all along. Granja just is a game that's kind of out of print, hard to find a little bit, and it's something that I wanted to add to my collection. So when I heard there was a new version coming out, it was something that I jumped on. That I knew I was going to back. It's very much kind of in my wheelhouse. It's a Euro game, kind of lots of choices, exactly the kind of game that I like. So I pledged Granja Deluxe Master Set. And then I was looking at Total War Rome, the board game. I wasn't thinking that I was going to back it, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought what a good game it was and the strategy and variability that it had, and I ended up backing it. I went all in, I got all the expansions. I think with some of my friends in a specific game group, that game is going to be a huge hit. That group does lean towards heavy Euros, but also war games to some degree, and I just think the combination of both of those genres in Total War Rome, the board game, is going to be a resounding success. And it's also a little bit different from other games that I have in my collection, which means that the only game that I didn't back from last video was Skate Summer, the Pandasaurus game. And that was a game that I really considered backing. It looked really clever to me and neat, but it just operates this medium light area where I don't really play those games as much, and I kind of already have more than I need. It's just as a genre and as a complexity that doesn't get to the table as much with me because I and my friends like heavier games. The number of those medium light games that I need is smaller, and there are actually a lot of good ones. So I'm forever trying to pare back that part of my collection and just keep it to the best of the best. And as much as I thought Skate Summer looked cool and I might want to play it a few times, it just didn't feel like something I would probably end up keeping, so I thought it was best not even to back it. This past year I've had Dinosaur World deliver from Pandasaurus Games, and it's fun, but it's got its problems and it's very fiddly, and it's a game that I think I'm going to be moving out of my collection. So I didn't want to jump into another Pandasaurus game when I think at the end of the day, I probably just want to play it a couple times rather than owning it. Now, if you want to play at home, you can try to figure out which games I'm going to personally back from this week's list. And I think I'm going to back one of the four. So which of the four is it? Sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think. Finally, I had 4 games that I acquired during this period. 3 of them were from Capstone Games. The first is Boonlake, which is a new game from Alexander Pfister, who designed games like Mombasa and Great Western Trail, and he's one of my favorite designers. So I knew that I wanted his new game, and I did a pre-order directly through the publisher Capstone. So that game came in. And along with it came Cooper Island, which is just another game from Capstone that I've heard really good things about it. But Cooper Island's a couple years older, so it's not really getting a lot of chatter about it now. I have heard solid things about it. I'm excited to play it, see if it delivers on all of its potential. But it is a game that I probably won't get to the table for a while because I'm trying to catch up on 2020 games for an eventual best of 2020 list. And I'm still working on my most anticipated games of 2022. And if you haven't checked out that series yet, you can find it on my channel. In fact, I will put the link to the first video in the series down below in the descriptor section. So you could click on that and start that series if that's something that you're interested in. In that series, I talk about 100 different games that I'm excited about that are publishing this year. I also did 10 honorable mentions, and I talked about 50 more games that are either expansions or later versions of games that have existed previously. So I didn't want to lump those in with new IP, new games, so I put them with the expansions in their own little mini series. And those two videos are videos 2 and 3 of that larger 8 video series. Video 1 is the honorable mentions, and then starting with video 4, I talk about 20 games per video. So videos 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 each talk about 20 of the 100 games on that list. And I think that series is a great way to see what's coming this year, both from retail and which Kickstarters are delivering, and it'll give you the ability to, have an idea of what's coming out this year and keep your eyes peeled. Maybe you'll find games that you didn't know about that you don't want to miss, or you'll just be reminded of other things that you knew were coming that you'd forgotten about, and this will give you a little information in terms of when that is either delivering or publishing. I also received Legacies, which is by a new designer. His name is Jason Brooks, and his company, Brookspun Games. And Richard Ham, aka Rado, said that that game, Legacies, was one of the most audacious and inspired board game debuts he's ever seen. Now, Rado tends to be very positive and heap a lot of praise on things, but even so, that is a very, very specific kind of praise that I think is pointed and goes beyond just general, positive, effusive praise. To make a claim like that, I think says a lot. So I'm very looking forward to Legacies. It's a Euro game. It takes place over like 300 years. Players are industrialists, so they're doing all this stuff to develop up industry. One of the cool things about the game, though, is when you start, there are 2 sides to each player board, and you can decide whether or not you want to play sort of above board and ethically, or if you want to play your character underhandedly. And whichever side of the player board that you use, whichever kind of alignment that you choose for the character, is going to significantly change the kinds of actions and mechanics that he can do. But in general, this just seems to be a very ambitious game with a lot of great mechanics, and I think when we get to the end of 2022, I think Legacies is going to be on a short list of, the 10 games that everyone's talking about. And it may even do some things that may change the board game industry in some ways in terms of how people are making games, like mechanically what's happening in those games. I think it may start some talking points for people and influence the way, some mechanics and genres are done in the future. So we'll have to see how it lands, how far-reaching it is. But I think there's a lot of potential there for it to be an amazing game that's just going to blow people away, and then also, have some ripples and how that affects other games that are being designed and published. Finally, the 4th game that I acquired is Maracaibo, the Uprising. This is the new expansion for Maracaibo, which is another game by Alexander Pfister. Despite the fact that he's one of my favorite designers, I still have not gotten Maracaibo to the table. So I think I probably need to play the base game a few times and then immediately play the expansion and just see how I enjoy both. But I have high expectations for both. I've heard nothing but good things about Maracaibo, and I like the campaign element that is in there as well from what I've heard. So I just want to dive deep into Boonlake and Maracaibo. but I have to do some work on this channel and kind of get through a couple series, I think, before I get to the point where I can do that. I've been behind the 8 ball a little bit with these videos, these Kickstarter weeklies. The idea is for these to come out on Friday. That will give you guys the chance to watch the video over the weekend before we get into the week where the various crowdfunding campaigns are ending. And in previous videos, I said that it didn't look like there would be too many campaigns that would be featured in the next several videos. It looked like there was going to be 1 or 2 a week. Well, after I said that week a ton of Kickstarter campaigns debuted, and they all had sort of short campaign lengths. So next week's video actually looks to be rather substantial, and I do plan on getting that published on Friday of this week so that that normal time frame can start to take effect and apply. And I intend to continue with that after this week. So beginning later this week, Kickstarter weeklies should be publishing on Fridays. And then also this week, I plan on completing that most anticipated games of 2022 video series. By the time we hit next week, that video series should be finished, and I should be on a regular Friday publishing schedule for these Kickstarter weeklies. Anyway, thank you very much for spending some time with me today and listening to me talk about these crowdfunding campaigns as well as some other games that I've played or hopefully will be playing soon. I hope that I was able to give you some information and point you in the direction maybe of a crowdfunding campaign that you either didn't know about or you were on the fence trying to make up your mind whether to back it or not. So please don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future, and hit the alarm bell if you want to be notified when that content is published. Over the next week, I should have 4 more videos being published, so enjoy those as they land. Play lots of great games this week. Take care, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.